Ah, yeah. Get it going on, baby. How's it going, everybody? Yeah. Welcome to the party. Today we're going to talk about Soldier Bar, Idaho. There's an airstrip up there where some real major stuff went down. It was pretty awesome. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to... How you doing, Crammy Davis Jr., Arthur? How are ya? Good to have y'all on board. So I've got the wonderful Bound for the Backcountry book with me here, and today we're going to talk about Soldier Bar. Pretty cool story, a lot of good history. If you have not had a chance and you're a backcountry pilot to go land at Soldier Bar, there's a little monument there. And so this video will help prepare you for that experience because it's amazing, it's great. Got Kevin Savis and family on board, Arthur Sneed and Crammy Davis Jr. and Gary McDuffie. Yeah, I'm still missing my razor. I don't mind it. It's still in the itchy stage though, so I'm annoyed, but it is what it is. Anyway, Soldier Bar is located near the Big Creek 4. It's a little bit just to the southeast of Cabin Creek, a little bit downriver. And so let's get right into it. Here we go, Soldier Bar. How's it going, Dusty? Adelaide, Australia, good eye, mate. You know, I have a couple of things that you Australians bring to the fly-ins up here and give me as gifts. One of the things, just kind of fun, Tim Howes, if you know who he is, he's an amazing young individual down there. And he gave me a, no joke, a kangaroo ball sack as a gift. That's a thing, I guess, down there. So anyway, let's get into Soldier Bar. I'm so sorry. Henry Cohen, Arthur Sneeden, Leo Brush It Off Painter, Aaron Strom, Mark Benningfield. Here we go. The Soldier Bar airfield sits on a naturally flat bluff above Big Creek. Given the distinctive level formation, the bar was used frequently by humans far before aircraft arrived. Ah, here's where it gets interesting. The Shoshone Indians camped, hunted, and fished at the site. On August 19, 1879, soldiers in search of the Indians found a large camp on the east end of the high plateau. So, kind of how Soldier Bar is, maybe it sits, I don't know, 300-400 feet above the river, kind of just on a plateau. So the runway, you approach a little bit higher on this one than you normally would on one of the airstrips in the river. Like it's much higher than Vines or Dewey or Cabin Creek. But anyway, you got to nail your approach, and it's kind of a little bit high, which gives you a tactical advantage if you're an Indian and you got cowboys coming down a river. Ready? Soldiers, cowboys, whatever. So on August 19th, 1879, soldiers were looking for them Indians, found a large camp on the east end of the high plateau. It contained 10 wickiups, which are the pole and brush structures, which soldiers burned. Oh, what jerks. One day later, while soldiers were leaving, they were taken by surprise. It's an ambush! The Indians, who had retreated from the encampment several days earlier, had crept down the rock cliffs from above and attacked. During the skirmish, Private Harry Egan was shot through both thighs. A doctor came to the aid of the wounded private and put him under with chloroform to amputate his leg. Ouch, right there on site. He died during the operation. That's not good. Egan was buried at Soldier Bar, thus creating the name Soldier Bar. So there's a monument still there with Private Harry, who was shot through both of his thighs. Now this is 1879. I'm not sure what kind of weaponry the Indians had, whether they were bow and arrow or whether they were rifle. I'm assuming it's rifle that late. I'm sure a lot of Western technology crept into the Shoshone Indian tribes. But when Colonel W.C. Brown retired from the military, he began recording many of his career events. Including among his writings was a story of Sheep-Eater campaign of 1879. Although Egan was not under his command during the campaign, he thought a memorial should be established at the place to mark the location of the military engagement and the grave site. In the early part of 1925, so we're talking like 40 years later, Brown made an inquiry with Clover postmaster Joe Elliott, who lived at the Mile High Ranch, about the location of Egan's grave. It's believed Elliott helped to establish a correspondence between Brown and Lower Big Creek resident Dave Lewis, who was an army packer during the campaign. Several letters and notes about the project ensued among the three men for several months. In one of Lewis's letters to Brown, he verified that he could show him the exact location of the gravesite. However, he expressed some doubt that Egan's remains were still present by stating, "I always understood that in any year or so his remains were taken up and sent to Boise or elsewhere. It was 20 years after the battle at Soldier Bar before I came back into Big Creek country. At any rate, the grave was opened and shows it to this day." Brown, apparently satisfied with Lewis's knowledge of the grave's locality, was able to persuade the United States Army to fund the Soldier Bar Monument. And it still stands there today. Following the standard protocol set by the United States, an order was placed with the Vermont Marble Company of Proctor, Vermont, to make a headstone for Egan. The military's World War I design was slightly modified at Brown's request to include extra lettering on the stone to give some explanation to the event surrounding Egan's death, which I think is quite handy, because if you show up there and you're like, what's this big gravesite all about? It's kind of handy that there's some history there. A little bit of history written on the gravestone. Due to the stone's proposed isolated location, the War Department's construction service designed this special conical base for the headstone. With arrangements made between Brown and Elliott, the United States Army hired Elliott to transport the materials for the monument and to build it. On June 15, 1925, the stone was shipped from Proctor to Boston, Massachusetts, where it was placed on a steamship and taken to Portland, Oregon. From Portland, it was delivered by rail to McCall on September 4th. That same year, that's 1925. Elliott then hauled the 300-pound stone by wagon to Edwardsburg via Warren, and then packed it the remainder of the way to Soldier Bar, along with all the necessary construction supplies. On his way to Soldier Bar, he stopped at the Lewis Ranch, where Lewis happened to be entertaining his friend Harry Shelworth. The two offered to help in the building of the monument, and by the end of October, the project was completed. They did a great job. Some quibbling between Elliott and the United States Army occurred over the cost of transportation and construction, which totaled $281.10. One Army individual wrote to Elliott, "The request to do this work was not made so much on account of any small profit or pay which may be begotten for the work, but it is understood that you would undertake the work through patriotic interest." So basically the Army was saying, F you did the work, you're not getting paid. I wonder if that's ever happened before. How's it going, Mike from Arkansas? Elliott threw in his own jabs and made such comments as, "It all takes time in a country like this, and I always try to be as patriotic as the next individual." So now let's talk about the airstrip. But before I do, let me show you a couple of pictures. Here's a picture of the Soldier Bar. Right there, you can see, it's kind of hard to see with this black and white picture. So there's the Soldier Bar up on the plateau, the riverbed down below there. Not the best photo, but this is super high-tech iPhone live streaming. And here is a picture of a Cessna next to the monument. You can actually park your airplane right next to the monument. It's actually a really cool spot. If you have an opportunity to go check it out, even if you're not in your own airplane, beg, steal, borrow a ride, and get your little booty in a Soldier Bar. It's beautiful. There was a fire, I'd say maybe 15 years or so ago. The Idaho backcountry pilots would know, or the state of Idaho would know exactly when the fire. So some of the trees are still regrowing, but it's absolutely beautiful. I would recommend June. So the airfield. Work began building the airfield in 1932, with the majority of the labor carried out the following year. Forest Service employees Bill Parks, John Cook, Tom Koski, and Dan Levan. Dan the Man Levan. Those guys did most of the work. Cabin Creek resident Merle Blackie Wallace provided additional help packing supplies to the site. Cabin Creek is really close to Soldier Bar, maybe less than a couple miles, a few miles. In 1933, takeoffs had been made on both runways, which crossed at 30-degree angles to each other. There's no longer 2 runways at Soldier Bar. There's only one. They'll probably cover that in here. We'll see. Bob Johnson of Johnson Flying Service was the first to land on the bar with a Travel Air. At this time, the east-west runway measured 1,500 feet, and the northeast-southwest runway measured 1,150 feet. After several landings had been successful, runway end markers made of rock were added to each end and measured 2 feet by 25 feet. Along with the rock work, the fields were further plowed with a horse-drawn log drag made on site to facilitate leveling the surface. Included with the grading was the clearing of trees around the entire area, but primarily near the monument and to the southwest of the short runway. In 1935, both runways were widened. By the end of the 1950s, the shorter runway was moved slightly to the north and a 500-foot dogleg extension was added. Now this is still in use today, the little dogleg extension, which is kind of handy because my buddy Brian, up there in the state of Washington, yeah, Crazy Brian and his red and black Mooney, he doesn't have it anymore, but he landed that son of a gun at Soldier Bar. You can find that video here on YouTube. Pretty fun video. I'm not sure what the title is, but I'm sure if you searched Mooney Soldier Bar, you'd find it. Pretty crazy. Barely made it out of there alive. He was awesome. What a great pilot. Super cool dude. Okay, this is the primary runway used at the facility today and the only one recognized by the FAA. In fact, nobody's used the crosswind runway in so long that you can't even tell that it's there anymore. So, with that said, the other portion of the longer field is still visible when on the ground. I don't think so. I've looked. I can't find it. Maybe I'm blind and or dumb. Both could be true. Okay, few pilots occasionally use it to take off upstream, but generally tall grass makes it very difficult to see the actual surface. See? Okay. Picture time before I change pages. So here's a picture of some dudes. That's probably the 4 fellas working for the Forest Service. Isn't that cool? Look at this history. Airstrips. It's pretty awesome. There's more checking it out. See the monument there over there on the right, maybe? I think it's the right if YouTube's doing this the right way. Anyway, pretty cool, pretty cool. I'm loving this. This is fun. This is so fun. You guys having fun? What do you think? Rocket, how you doing, buddy? Been a long time. So, wrecked airplanes and parts is this next section. In 1955, Big Creek District Ranger Bob Burkholder instructed summer employees Bill Little and Andy Finn to bury the remains of several airplanes that had wrecked at Soldier Bar. It is not an easy airstrip to land at. It's, if you're a rank beginner in the backcountry, I probably would go over to McCall Flying Service or Lori McNichol. Lori, is it McNichol? Lori McSomething up at McCall Flying Service. Take their backcountry flying course over there. It's pretty good. After digging one hole and making little progress, Burkholder selected 2 of the 5 pits that he found in the Talus Slope as disposal locations. These pits were constructed by Indians and most likely used to store caches. The 2 men hauled the material uphill, filled the holes, and then covered them with soil and rocks. However, long before these items were buried, Big Creek residents had scavenged the wrecks. Jess Taylor of the upstream Taylor Ranch packed the entire tail section of a Luscombe on a horse to his property. He then built a smoker by situating the tail vertically on a rock foundation and lined it with open rocks. A small wood stove and pipe were then plumbed into the invention for a perfect fish smoker. Look at that! How freaking cool! The tail of a Luscombe cooks your meat, boys. Go catch your salmon on the Salmon River and cook it in the tail of an aircraft. How Billy D. bad to the bone is that? However, long before these items were buried... Oh, wait. I already read that paragraph. Let's skip down to something that I haven't read yet. Other area inhabitants of the drainage packed off small souvenirs. Ross Geiling retrieved aluminum from an airplane that pilot Bill Woods wrecked at the bar in the early 1950s. As a gift, he made dust pans for friends. One of these pans is still in use by an Upper Big Creek resident. Other items carried off are also in use, including a Stinson flap handle. In 1959, the Forest Service again buried more parts of wrecked airplanes. A crew comprised of Dub Horn. Now, your name is Dub Horn. D-U-B is your first name. Your last name is Horn. That's a unique name. That's why it threw me off there. Cool name, though. Cool story, bro. Leiter Spence, Dave Stoops, and Ron White. Ron White, the comedian? Probably not. Dug holes behind the trees along the south side of the airstrip, and they disposed of numerous parts. After they were done, they were smoothed out the airstrip surface and built new runway markers. Very cool. So basically there's a whole bunch of junk buried underneath the runway at Soldier Bar. Tell your friends. Dub Horn. I know Dub Horn. Oh, my son's on again. Son of a glitch. Okay. A sizable air operation. This is pretty cool. In the summer of 1970, Soldier Bar became the location for one of the largest air operations to occur in the backcountry. What started as a slow fire season quickly changed on August 24th, when the U.S. Forest Service contract aerial patrols first responded to a fire call reported to be near the mouth of Big Creek at the middle fork of the Salmon River. None of the fire lookouts in the area could see the base of the smoke, but everyone was reporting a large column. As it later turned out, the fire had started as the result of an unattended campfire set by boaters camped near Porcupine Rapid on the Middle Fork, just a couple of miles below Big Creek. Yikes. I hate to hear of people doing that. Once started, it spread rapidly up the ridge between Wall Creek and Golden Creek. Intermountain Aviation Chief Pilot Bob Nickel dropped a load of smoke jumpers from a Twin Otter on the ridge above the fire. The jumpers reached the ground but were unable to stop the fire and had to evacuate the area. It became a project fire later the same day. Even though the fire was not on the Payette North Fork, most of the resources came from or through McCall, so they gained management of it. It's probably just resource management. You just got to get the people to the fire no matter where they come from. Kind of like Utah firefighters going to California to help out. Transportation to the fire line primarily became a helicopter show. Fixed-wing airplanes carried fire crews from various places to McCall. From McCall, they were reloaded mainly into Forest Service DC-3s and then flown into Chamberlain and Cold Meadows for further transportation at the Soldier Bar Airstrip, where a base camp had been set up. Initially, all flights to Soldier Bar were accomplished only by helicopter. The Forest Service DC-3s and Intermountain Twin Otters were used to drop supplies onto the Soldier Bar fire camp. The fire boss was Crassel District Ranger Ed Heikkinen. Ed Heikkinen. Heikkinen. Heikkenen. It's a great name. It's hard to pronounce if you're reading it for the first time. One morning, about a week into the establishment of the fire camp, Nickel and his pilots showed up to fly some cargo drops. During the drops, Heikkinen asked... I'm just going to go with Heikkinen. Heikkinen asked Nickel over the radio if he could land at Soldier Bar. Since Nickel had landed the Otter at the Strip on a checkout flight a year or two before, he told him sure. It ended up saving the Forest Service quite a bit of money in rigging, retrieving, and flight time, and that's how most of the cargo was delivered from then on. What a bad to the bone. Nickel was a stone-cold fox, man. That's awesome. While the Twin Otters could operate fairly well in and out of Soldier Bar, if the conditions were right, the weight had to be kept down, particularly for takeoff. The Twin Otters carried many fire crews to the airstrip, but not very many out. Nickel recalled that the faces of the fire crews were much lighter in color after landing there, particularly the crews from Region 8, the southern region. When it came time to close the Soldier Bar camp, the crews were carried by helicopter to Chamberlain or Cold Meadows, where DC-3s or Twin Otters flew them back to McCall or Boise. After the fire was out and all the crews were gone, it became a smoke jumper project to clean up the mess. Nickel and his pilots flew in rakes, garbage bags, etc. Nickel said it seemed like there was no end to it, but it actually took about 2 weeks. I stayed on contract until the end of September, and my logbook shows my last flight into Soldier Bar was on September 20th. Yeah, this is we're talking about 1970, so not super long ago. The result of the whole project, was an estimated 200 takeoffs and landings made by Intermountain pilots in Twin Otters. The Otters mainly used for the Soldier Bar work were November 7705 and November 774 Mike. During the peak workload, the two additional Otters, 790 Mike and 7711, were also used mostly for passenger and freight flights into the Chamberlain and Cold Meadows airstrips. The Forest Service had 1 or 2 DC-3s based in McCall also during that time. Before and after the busy summer of 1970, outfitters and guides used the airfield regularly. The hunting area around Soldier Bar was originally permitted to the Taylor Ranch. Similar to the Indian habitation on the bar, outfitters utilized the spring on the east end. After 1982, the University of Idaho no longer accommodated outfitters at Taylor Ranch, and the field saw little more use as camps were often set up on Soldier Bar in the fall. So that's the history of Soldier Bar. It is still in use today. It's a designated airstrip. It's on the FAA chart. I would highly recommend you look at it. I mean, this thing has seen tons of history, going all the way back to the days of the Cowboys and Indians, where a soldier was shot through both of his thighs, buried there. There's a monument there. It's beautiful. You're sitting up above the creek there, and I would highly recommend a visit to Soldier Bar. Now, for the funnest part of Story Time with Cory, I will go into the chat. And let's chat. Answer your questions. Have your comments. Here we go. My son. Me joining my dad's stream twice in one day. I am big brain. Complete sentences, son. That would be nice. Rocket, that's engineering. Yes, very good engineering. Okay, Cory, where did you put the Enough D video? Wanted to send it along with I just can't buy a plane ever person, but I can't find it in your videos. Well, bro, I took that one down. I may upload it only for members. That'll be a members only video. I did get a lot of negative feedback for the innuendo in that one, so whatever. What's the evocation of Soldier Bar? Evocation? What are we talking about here? I'm not quite sure I understand the question. That's interesting. What's the location? Elevation. Let me find out. Let's go to Google. They're all probably in the 3,000-ishes foot range. They're all not super high. It is 4,190 feet. So not super high, not super low, kind of right in the middle somewhere. I just went to the idahoaviation.com website really quickly, and they have fantastic information about all the Idaho airstrips. And it's a site by the Idaho Aviation Association, which is a fantastic organization, which deserves your support. Fantastic information there. Every single airstrip in Idaho there has like a diagram of the runways, coordinates, elevations. You know, a Soldier Bar is it's a rough strip. It's not super easy to land at, but it's very rewarding. I'd highly recommend you get into there. But yes, and Mike, maybe I'll just re-record that one because I think the content was good, just to answer your question. And I agree with you. It's not my normal. That's why I took it down. Okay, any other questions? Mr. Willie McAllen. Hello, Mexico. How are you? Jake Visser. Up there at YBR. Nice. How you doing, buddy? Arkansas. Boom! Love this thing. Plan on going this summer to Idaho. You know, Tyler, I'll tell you. Let me just tell you right now. Can you do a knife edge with your Carbon Cub? I'll answer that in a minute. I'm going to tell you my top 4 airstrips in the Idaho backcountry, not for their challenge, but just because of either the cool factor, the iconic factor, just a bucket list thing, or just an awesome place to go. Probably the most iconic one that everybody has to visit if you haven't done before is the world famous Johnson Creek. It's the most popular one in Idaho, I would say. Everybody goes there, but it is beautiful groomed grass, over 3,000 feet long, super, super easy to get into and out of. In fact, the published arrival and departure procedures are super easy to understand. It's relatively safe to get in and out of there, just as long as you don't go on like a crazy weekend or during like a fly-in where you got 150 airplanes on the grass. But Johnson Creek, definitely check it out. If you've got the right aircraft, I would definitely give yourself an opportunity to go to Cabin Creek Airstrip. And I'll talk about that one probably on my next live stream, maybe tomorrow. But Cabin Creek is beautiful because it's kind of got a little curve in it, but there's a great hike. It's kind of up in the canyon, and then you can hike down to the river, and short little 5-minute hike, but it gets your blood flowing, and it's just absolutely beautiful and stunning, and I would highly recommend it. Going a little bit to the south and to the west, I would definitely check out, what's it called? Having a break part. Garden Valley. Garden Valley is beautiful. One of the reasons why I love Garden Valley is it's on the Payette, and a lot of great river rafting. The city, the culture there is amazing. If Annie's the caretaker up there, she's awesome. Garden Valley is an easy airstrip. It's super cool to get into. You can get any airplane in there, virtually. I mean, you can't get heavy jet aircraft in there, but you don't have to have a backcountry airplane to go into Garden Valley or Johnson Creek. And another one that I really enjoy is where everybody goes to breakfast. Where is it? Gosh, I'm having a real brain fart here. Let me look it up. It's not the Flying Bee. Let me look in the table of contents. Sulphur Creek. Everybody should go to Sulphur Creek and have breakfast at the Sulphur Creek Lodge. Sulphur Creek Ranch is awesome. They even have places where you can rent out for a night. They got a private fishing pond. They got horseback riding. So if you want to go and fly into a place where you want to have more of a rustic resort type experience, I would definitely check it out. Pretty awesome. Okay, so Aaron Strom is asking, can I do a knife edge with my Carbon Cub? And he says he has a couple of RC Cubs, and I never really seen one do that. Aaron, because of power to weight ratio in full scale aircraft, there are very few aircraft that can actually perform a knife edge and sustain horizontal flight. Even in the aerobatic category aircraft, there's most of them can't do it unless they've got a really high power to weight ratio. Very specialized aircraft like the Extra 300s and some of the Pitts variants. Like I had an S1S and I couldn't maintain level flight for an extended period of time doing a knife edge. A Super Cub certainly cannot do it. But a good question. Very valid question. Very fun question because it shows that you're out there flying your RC airplanes to their fullest capability. Was the DC-3 the biggest to fly in there? I don't think the DC-3 ever made it into Soldier Bar. I know the DC-3 operated out of many of the surrounding airstrips. Like Bruce Meadows is huge. Chamberlain's got a long runway, but definitely not any of these shorter ones. Hello from New York. What would you tell us a story of acquiring my first airplane? Oh, okay. Maybe I will. That'll be a good story time for Cory. I'll put that on my list. In fact, I keep a notepad, little ideas and stuff, and I'm going to do that. So thanks for the suggestion. I'm going to tell a story about how I bought my first airplane. I'm writing it down. Got it down. Although obviously a tailwheel would be ideal, do you think something like a Cessna 182 would be able to visit some of these places? I thought I saw one in the photo you showed, but didn't see it well. John, you're absolutely right. The Cessna 182 is a fantastic backcountry airplane if you can be very, very aware and cognizant about respecting the nose gear. I've seen a lot of people get their firewalls all bent out of shape in a Cessna 182 because they're just not designed to take a lot of punishment. But all the designated airstrips, maybe with the exception of the Big Creek 4 like Vines, Simons, Dewey Moore, and Mile High, pretty much anything else in Idaho is suitable for a 182 depending on conditions. And so you'll want to look at a recent condition report. Soldier Bar, you can definitely get a 182 in and out of there fairly easily. If I've seen a guy get a Mooney in and out of Soldier Bar, so you can definitely get a 182 in there. Can my airplane take gas with ethanol? Yes, any airplane can really take gas with ethanol as long as you're cautious about burning all of it in a relatively short amount of time. And I know that there's a lot of people saying, no, the gaskets and all the seals and everything won't support it. Well, it depends on how long you let it sit. It's more of a storage issue than anything else, because ethanol attracts water, and water creates havoc and problems in your fuel. So yeah, you can burn ethanol in an aircraft engine. I'm not recommending you do anything. Don't do anything I say. But it's, you know, from a science geek perspective, just burn it all so that the water while you're storing it and the ethanol while you're storing it doesn't become an issue. So for example, if I'm on a cross-country journey and I know I can burn the entire tank, maybe I'll put ethanol in one tank and burn that entire tank completely to the bone, and then burn the other tank which has avgas in it. It might take a little bit of planning, but in a pinch you can burn ethanol. I definitely wouldn't recommend doing it all the time. You might have detonation issues. You know, there's a reason why we run high octane stuff in these low compression aviation engines. 170 with an 0300, Tyler. Hey, that's awesome. I love the 170 series of airplanes, and the 0300 on there, it's a good engine. Question is my Cub an EX2? Hayden, no. My Cub is an EX. The EX is my favorite. There's a lot of reasons for that, and maybe I'll do a video about that. Are they making a Tricycle Cub yet? Yeah, they are. Well, actually, I think they're still in development mode. Doing a Part 23 certification on an airplane is a long and involved process. I know Cubcrafters is being very aggressive about it, but I don't know that they're manufacturing it yet. I will get that information and post it up or do something. But that's a really great question. I would contact Cubcrafters directly, and they might have a more educated answer. Sidebar, I did fly the NX Cub with the nose gear. It is amazing. It doesn't feel like it has a nose wheel as soon as you get off the ground. The only real noticeable difference about the airplane in the air is when you're transitioning and you're flying it on the ground. It's like flying anything else like a trike. So pretty cool. But I don't think they're making it yet. I think that they're still in, you know, their evaluation mode and taking orders and kicking tires and seeing how it might be financially feasible to do that. I know it's going to be an expensive airplane. You're talking probably the world's first $300,000+ Super Cub. Yikes. Okay, that looks like that is it with everybody and all your questions. Thank you so much for watching. There's a little member or join button down below. If you click on that, there's a little short video that'll play. It'll give you an explanation as to what the membership program is, what it's all about. So please, please, please take a look at that. Consider becoming a member. That does support the channel, helps me create more content, and makes me super motivated. And maybe I'll do some members-only live streams during this coronavirus epidemiology. And I hope you enjoyed this story about the Soldier Bar Airstrip. Like I said before, it's an amazing and breathtaking location. Take your time when you're there. Don't go in there and just to bag the strip, turn around and take off. Get out, check out the monument, look at the surrounding sites, take plenty of pictures. It is absolutely beautiful. Be wise, stay healthy. I love you. Thanks for watching. Take care. Oh, and now I'm going to play some music. This is my high-tech outro. Here we go.
When you're away, do I miss you? Is it just because I can't kiss you? Is it dishes in the sink or the lack of a wink? Or just because I love my life with you?
See you guys.